Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
We grow. We grow out of our clothes. We grow out of relationships. But have you ever considered, well, what happens if you outgrow your role? And how would you even know that you've outgrown your role and it's time to move on? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today in our episode here on USA Global TV and Radio, when we look at when your role no longer fits. And with me, as always, I have Dr. Jacalyn, and I look forward to having a vigorous conversation with her.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, I am very happy that we are going to discuss this topic because I've been wondering about it a little bit. I mean, I've had a number of roles over my career, and I know you did too. So I thought, why not have this conversation together and see what comes out of it?
And it happens quite often. It can happen personally, it can happen professionally. And I feel like there's an expression about being comfortable in your own skin. And all of a sudden, you're just not comfortable. Your body is telling you, I don't feel like I'm in alignment with this anymore. And I think that can be scary because that might mean making a change that could ultimately hurt someone. So have you ever, Mariska, heard of anyone who felt like they needed to make a change? They realized they weren't where they needed to be, but they didn't do it because they didn't want to hurt anyone.
Well, I know that I've done that for myself, and I have also had quite a few different clients that sat in the same position. And sometimes it's because we don't know where we want to go next. Sometimes it's because it is, as you mentioned, just a little bit too scary. We haven't ventured out into the world, or we think that, God forbid, life has to be mediocre. For some odd reason, we are too scared to step into our full potential, or that thing that's always been calling us from far, far away. And I know that, Dr. Jacalyn, that's one of the reasons why me and you actually came to where we are now. And what I'm wondering is, initially, if you think way, way back, to that initial stages of you going, I'm not sure whether I still feel comfortable in my skin. What was the feelings that was coming up for you?
Well, when you and I first met and we were taking Mariana Leeds' coaching program, I remember something that she said, which was, if you're going to be a coach, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I felt all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, that's kind of frightening, because that means you have to be perfect in many ways. And so that kind of came up for me. Am I qualified to be a coach? Does that role fit me? Does that mean I have to be perfect in every way? And I thought a lot about that, because if you're guiding people, if you're giving direction, I think that's different, though, than being a therapist, because a therapist in many cases can be telling someone exactly what to do, whereas our role is more about having people come up with the answer themselves. So I think it's okay. I think that the role can fit even if you are not perfect, because no one is, but to be able to relate your stories and your experiences so that it could help someone else.
Yeah. And at that stage, as far as I remember, you were still in corporate while doing the course, not doing this yet. What was the rest of the process? How did you go from, oh, well, I'm in corporate, this is a lot of fun, and then moving into doing all of this?
My body was shutting down. So I seemed to have more and more ulcerative colitis flares. I had more eczema flares. And when I would tell people at work, because I sold meetings and events and I was traveling. And so I'd have to be away sometimes for maybe 3 weeks. I was in Panama, I think for 21 days. And knowing that I wasn't going to be close to home and that my body's going, oh, hello, we don't feel too well today. It just seemed like it wasn't a good fit. And then you and I were doing a lot of role plays in the course, in the actual coaching certification program. And I think you might even remember me talking about when I had the facial eczema. And there were times when I was in the class and I had it on my face and I was really ashamed and embarrassed. But you and I started working together and I came up with a plan to actually leave corporate because it didn't feel right anymore. It didn't suit me, even though I'm very, very grateful for it. I had an incredible career, but that's when I knew I needed to do something else.
So it almost sounds like the thing that shook you out of it was your body physically going, I am rebelling. I cannot do this anymore. And I don't care what you think about the whole process, but if we're going to continue, I'm going to make it extremely uncomfortable for you.
It's true. And I think when our body's talking to us, many times we don't want to listen because, especially for us, if we're go getters, then it's kind of like, well, I've got to get this done and that done and that done and this done. I don't have time to listen to my body. But our body is basically telling us that maybe this role doesn't fit and maybe you're meant to take an actual look at it. But Mariska, you know this, like I was saying in the beginning, sometimes it is so overwhelmingly frightening and scary to think about making a change that people just go, okay, well, I'll just deal with the headaches. Or you're in a bad relationship, you know it doesn't work, and you feel physically sick, even thinking about the fact that at the end of the day, you're going to be sleeping next to this person, and you continue doing it because the thought of leaving and going out on your own, it's overwhelming.
It is. It is. And I think a lot of the time, it is the unknown. We are more scared of the unknown thing than the known thing, right? Because we know how it feels. We sort of, what I found for myself is sometimes I desensitize myself. I become numb, either emotionally numb, physically numb. I numb myself out. So if you think about hitting yourself a lot in one spot, right? Initially it will hurt and then it hurts some more. And then the hurt doesn't really go away. The body just starts to numb it. And that's what we do. And it becomes so numb that we don't really realize the amount of damage we are doing. And as you mentioned, the body, there's a book by, I can't remember the author, but The Body Keeps the Score. So in it literally describes the fact that whatever it is that we do to our bodies, it remembers it, right? You don't have to remember it, but it will remember it. And it will remember all those times that you numbed it and you didn't want to listen. And then it's just going to shout a little bit louder. So what I'm wondering is, before it gets to that point, right? Because we all know somebody in either our life more directly, or maybe heard of somebody, or maybe it was a friend or some far away acquaintance, that something happened, something drastic happened, a heart attack, a severe panic attack, something that was so debilitating that they couldn't continue with whatever they were doing. And what I'm wondering is, how else, other than our bodies literally kicking us out, how else might we know that it's time to change our role or where we are? What other signals can we potentially look for?
I think one of the very obvious things that comes to mind is you can't sleep. You cannot get your mind to close off. You lie there in bed and you just keep thinking and worrying and worrying and worrying. And some people are more prone to worrying than other people are, but your body needs sleep. It craves sleep. So at the end of the day, if you're going to bed and you're not able to fall asleep and stay asleep, and of course, run to the bathroom every however often for most people, there's something going on. And I think the other thing is to the point that you just mentioned, when we find ourselves going to a doctor and asking for medication because we suffer from anxiety or we suffer from depression, is it really that? Or is it that we can't take anymore what it is that we're doing? I watched this interview the other day, and it was with a rock star of a band, very well known rocker. If I said the name, everyone would know it. And he was talking about his life of sobriety now, but when he was a major drug addict, and he was talking about being with a group of people and they would get a certain level of high so they could forget about whatever their problems were, even though they were touring and they had tons of money and tons of women and all the things that they thought they needed and wanted. And so this one particular occasion, and I'm paraphrasing, he mentioned that they had run out of the drugs they were doing, whatever it was. And so they decided to shoot up Jack Daniels into their veins. They just took a syringe and shot it right into their veins. And he said he realized at that point that he was going to kill himself, that at some point death was coming. And so he got sober and he realized that there were so many things that he was ignoring and not wanting to deal with in his life. And some of it was imposter syndrome, that, why am I so successful? Why am I making all this money and going all these tours and women throwing themselves at me? How do I deserve this? Why? And so he would just want to numb this pain of feeling like he didn't deserve it. And I think that there are many people out there who are numbing themselves with something. It doesn't have to be a substance. It could be gambling. It could be shopping. It could be just completely zoning out in isolation.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of the times there is stuff that we numb it because we want to ignore it. And sometimes we've numbed it for such a long time that we don't have the ability to see it properly anymore, which makes it worse. It's a little bit like when we're little and we're afraid of the monster under the bed, right? The only way to actually determine that there is no monster under the bed is to look under the bed, but you're so scared to look under the bed because what if there's a monster? And that's not a monster. It might be the cat or the dog, but there's no monster, right? We know that now. And yet when we are in that specific emotion, we might be ignoring it and numbing it out. As we grow up, we have all variety of ways of doing that. So, Dr. Jacalyn, when you think about your own experience, what do you see typically as patterns for you when you used to ignore things and sort of go, it will change, or it will be okay, or I'll just not look at that for now?
Well, I think with me, because of the ulcerative colitis and the facial eczema and the psoriasis, all, thank goodness, are in remission. But I think there were obvious signs, because there are things that had happened to me when I was younger, and I've talked about them before, but I don't want to distract from the program. But I never actually dealt with them. And I think when you don't deal with things, or especially if you're a young, impressionable woman, one of the things that really came to light recently is that I found some letters that I had written to my parents when I was in college. And, this is however long ago, that was a while. And in the letter, I basically was insulting myself. I think there were 3 letters. And in all 3, I called myself a whale and a loser, and I was disgusting. And my heart really broke for this young woman who really didn't like herself. And so to me, the fact that I ended up getting these 3 diseases is not a far stretch, because if you spend most of your time not liking yourself and not believing in yourself, and then maybe you even get external validation when people find out that you have ulcerative colitis and they tell you that you're disgusting, then you really start to believe it. And so you don't know what role fits for you. And I think that's what my thing was. And a lot of what I did was I threw myself into working out. And I've always been kind of obsessed with working out. I think I'm taking it a lot easier than I used to, but everything was doubles. I'd have to do double hot yoga, and it's 105 degrees. Each class is 90 minutes. I'm doing class back to back. And at the one studio, they had heaters in the ceiling, but then in the front row, which is where I always was, they had these space heaters, and I'd have to be right in front of the space heater. So it was like 110 degrees. And so I've always been like that. And I kind of feel like I was just beating myself up because I was internally in pain. And at the same time, I'm dealing with these illnesses, these chronic diseases. But today, as a 63-year-old woman, I see things much differently. And so I hope for other people, it doesn't take until you're in your 50s, really, because that's when I sort of had an awakening about it, to understand your body is talking to you, and not every role is going to fit, and you don't have to make it fit.
No, I think that's something that I remember when I was little. I thought grown-ups had it figured out. Luckily, I got disillusioned in my teenage years. So that was good for me in any case. But I think most people, for some odd reason, we keep holding on to that belief that at some point we will have it all figured out, right? This other group that we are moving towards, because we keep moving towards them, we keep growing older, has it figured out. And nobody actually goes and says, no, they don't. They don't have it figured out for themselves, and they don't have it figured out for you. And it's your job, the only job you have, is to figure it out for yourself and to find out what is the roles that fit for you in that time period, because it won't always fit, right? It's a little bit like clothing. Your clothing doesn't always fit. It's very few of us that has the clothes from when we were teenagers, except, of course, if you are a teenager at the moment, you have something to look forward to. You can see whether you can keep fitting into it until you're 60. But most of us don't, right? Our bodies change, our personality change, life. There's stuff that we learn from it. And if we had a bit more grace for ourselves and go, okay, am I testing this in a way where I can discover whether it fits or don't fit? And it's fine if it doesn't. It just doesn't fit you. It doesn't have to fit everybody, thank goodness. Otherwise, we would have been very grey blobs. So, Dr. Jacalyn, if you could give the person that wrote those letters, right? I'm not sure exactly what age she was, but if you could give her advice, what advice would you give her to do it different this time around?
I think she was probably 18 years old. And I think what I would say to my younger self is that if you don't love yourself and you don't respect yourself, you're always going to be looking for external validation. And when you're looking outside of yourself and you're putting all of everything that you have into someone else's hands, it's not going to turn out well. Because being able to trust someone with your humility and your fragility and just how vulnerable you are, you probably are going to get hurt. So I think the other thing is, and I was thinking about this today, is about the scale, for example. We always have these metrics that we go to. So as women and being evaluated, especially we're public figures, you and I, so we're in the public domain. So people can be analyzing how we look and how we sound right now, what we're wearing. And so we're putting ourselves out there so that we could be ridiculed. I'd like to think that we would be complimented and that people would be very supportive, but you never know. And so if you don't love yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, then you will be hurt every time someone says something to you that's unkind. And I've also found that people say unkind things typically, unless they have mental health issues, because they don't like themselves. They're in a place in their life that they're not happy. And so if you don't really like yourself and then someone says something to you that's going to hurt you and bring you down, that could be the catalyst for you numbing yourself with drugs, with alcohol, with shopping, with gambling, we could go on and on.
That is so true. It is that saying that we are each other's mirror, right? So whatever the thing is that's happening inside of me, in all likelihood, if it is something that I don't like or something that I have an uneasy relationship with because I want to ignore it or I want to numb it out, I will most probably see it more acutely in other people. And because I see that in other people and because I don't like it about myself, I might attack it. So I'm not really attacking the person. I'm attacking the thing that I'm seeing, the thing that I'm noticing, which might be very hurtful for that person, right? And it then influences all our relationships, all the ways of being together. So if you, first, it was the looking at yourself, right, and taking care of yourself. And if you were to give her any relational advice of how to relate to other humans, what would that be?
I think lead with kindness. I know for me, I am very friendly, even though I'm definitely an introvert. I absolutely positively prefer to be by myself. But when I am in social settings, I say hello to everyone. And I think it's interesting how many people do not say hello back. I just was in the parking lot at the gym and I said hello, hello, hello. And I think 3 of the people, maybe 3 out of 4, didn't even say hello. They're looking right at me. And then I think, okay, I guess they're just rude. But you know what? They're probably preoccupied. Why does it matter? It doesn't matter. So be friendly, be kind, and try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. If someone is blowing the horn and they're trying to drive you off the road, let them pass. You don't know what their situation is. And so I think if we stop judging other people and we just focus on ourselves. And then the last thing I want to say about this is, if you are someone who's looking for a relationship, I've heard this statement so many times, I'm looking for my other half. I'm looking for my better half. Why would you want half of a person? You want an entire person, but in order for that entire person to be interested in you, you have to be an entire person. You have to like yourself, because nobody wants to be in a relationship. Let's face it, Mariska, if I was in a relationship with you and I just said to you, you know what? I hate myself. I can't stand myself. I'm so this, I'm so that. How long are you going to listen to that before you're just like, listen, do something, get some help, do something so that you like yourself, because it just brings down the whole situation.
It does. Now that you mention it, I actually, knew a person that did exactly that. And to a degree, I get it. It's not fun for her or for the people around her. But I understand that she's learned. So this is a learned behavior that she's adapted to, most probably ignore, try to accommodate for that feeling of wanting to belong. That if she does that, puts herself down or do those sort of things, people give her attention. And most people will give her attention maybe for the first couple of days, first week, if they have very high tolerance because she was really intense, might be a month, to try and move past this type of behavior. But if you don't want to grow, if you want to stay ignoring whatever the thing is that you are ignoring, unfortunately, one of the other patterns that I've noticed is we have a tendency to, if we want something, so say for instance, I want to belong to a group, or I want to belong just in general because I don't have that thing. What we do is first we might over attach and then become needy. Now, needy can become creepy really fast, or we might push away and we want them to actually draw us back, right? Because we want to belong. So we have this deeper need that is quite pure, and the behaviors that we have adapted because we are ignoring other things might actually have the opposite effect of what we are trying to do. And that might also be in the roles that you have. When you think about the role that you have, think about the patterns that you keep seeing, the holes that you keep falling in. They might be a good indication that there's something going on below the surface that you haven't really looked at honestly with eyes wide open in a while. And it might need addressing. And as Dr. Jacalyn mentioned, the only person that can address it is you. There's no one else. No one can fix it for us. So with that being said, Dr. Jacalyn, what's your experience of it?
I feel that it's kind of multidimensional in how it shows up in our lives. But I think at the core, what we're talking about today, when your role no longer fits you, even if you are in a personal relationship, as I mentioned in the beginning, and you can't sleep, or you find yourself anxious to come home, or you find yourself anxious when your partner is near you, and you're coming up with all kinds of excuses to try to get away from the person, you have a choice. Are you going to listen to that and try to figure out what's going on? In fact, I just saw this in one of the stand-up comedy acts about how when people first meet each other, everything's so cute and sweet, and everybody is so like, oh, I love you, oh, googly eyes. And then those same behaviors years in, you absolutely can't stand about the person. And you find yourself going, I hate you. I hate you. I wish you'd get away from me. And they're the same person. It might be the exact same thing that they did when you first met, that they're so cute. And then all of a sudden, that is something about them that you can't stand. So what is it that changed? It changed that you don't feel like you fit in. And sometimes what we'll do is we make it about the other person. Well, you've changed. You're this and you're that. Well, maybe you're the one who's changed. Maybe you've outgrown the relationship. Maybe you're in a job where you can't stand it anymore. Maybe you were passed over for a promotion, or maybe the company's gone in a different direction, or you have a new leader, a new manager, and you just find yourself absolutely miserable, just punching the clock, punching time so that you can get out of there as soon as possible. Well, you have a choice, and the choice is, what are you going to do? What's the decision that you're going to make?
Yeah. And please don't jump from the frying pan into the fire. I have also seen this happen, right? You go, oh yeah, this doesn't fit anymore. This doesn't feel good anymore. And then we just jump. And the just jump might be in a worse spot than the previous spot. So when you notice that something's off and you need to move, also step back, pause, see what's going on around you. Because Dr. Jacalyn, I'm sure you would not have gone into a corporate position that was similar to the one that you had, but you could have gone into another type of corporate position where you were home more potentially. And would that have made you happy? Or would that have changed your system to be in a place where it would tolerate slightly the situation better?
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because most of my corporate career, I did work from home. I was really blessed. In fact, there were two times actually when there was a new manager who came in and said, everybody's got to come into the office. And I say, oh, no. I've been grandfathered in. I don't have to do that. So I've always worked from home for as long as I can remember. But the other thing is that when you're in the role that you're in, and maybe you're dealing with situations for example, I think with me, I got a lot of flack about the way that I look, about my blonde hair and my red lipstick and my red nails and the way I was dressed, because I've never been someone who is dressed like they don't want to be seen. I'm always out there. I'm very glitzy and blingy, and that's just how I am. And so I have gotten feedback over the years when I was in corporate, you need to tone it down. And I would say, but this is who you hired. I'm the same person. I showed up the same way. I didn't change myself during the interview process. And sometimes with these positions, I think I had 4 or 5 jobs in my entire career. You'd have to go through 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews after all the tests. And so at one point, I dyed my hair brown and I cut off my nails and I changed the way that I looked because that's what was expected. And I really wasn't happy because I kept thinking, what's wrong with the way that I am? Like, I just want to be accepted for who I am. But if you think about it, how many times are people in relationships and somebody might say, you know what, you need to lose some weight. You need to do this, you need to do that. And then you work on it and you do the things that the person said. And by the way, they might not even said it in a nice way. They might have been threatening, I'm going to leave you if you don't do this, or, you know, you sicken me, or I'm not attracted to you anymore. And then you do what's been asked and it doesn't matter anyway because the relationship doesn't work, but you can't see it. And you're in the role of pleasing, where you'll do whatever it takes because the thought of being without this person is something that you can't even accept.
Yeah. And that goes back to the ignoring and numbing, because we're trying to make this thing work, whether it is in a role or whether it is in a relationship. I mean, I'm saddened to hear that you had to dye your hair and cut your nails and not be you. I mean, that just sucks. In most corporations, right, they already put it through 2 filters. One, they take the fun out of most of the stuff, and then they put it through a gray filter so that they can make it as boring as possible. And then they tell you, have fun with this, which never works.
We're so glad that you're here with us. Welcome to the team, but conform. It reminds me of one of those things that they have for children. I can't think of what it's like, a piece of wood or some kind of plastic, and it has a round hole and a square hole and a triangle. And then you have these shapes that fit in, and then you have a hammer. And so as a kid, they'll try to put it in the wrong hole. And that's kind of what I experienced. And I know you've had your own business for a very long time. You couldn't pay me to go back and work for someone else. There is no way. And so for all those people out there who are working for other people, it could be the greatest experience you've ever had. But in some cases, it's let's take away your creativity. Let's just stomp on all of your dreams. And it happens to children. I talk about this all the time. Children have that curiosity, that wonder, that they're looking around and everything is so exciting until one day and someone tells them, don't do that again. You're this and you're that. Or maybe they try out for something. They have a little talent show and the person running it says, you can't sing, don't do that. You can't dance, you can't do this and this and that. And then you remember that for a lot of your life. So I think that it starts with when we're very young. And as we progress through life, it can really manifest itself in a way that you've been playing a role that you don't think fits and you don't even know how to get out of it because it's all you've ever known.
Yeah. And to a degree, like you mentioned with those little blocks, right? We were round and then we got hit into a square or a triangle. And now I'm round on the inside and I know I'm round on the inside, but my outside looks like a square or triangle. It just doesn't work because I get suited or fitted into square and triangle spaces. That's not really for me because I'm a circle.
Absolutely.
So it might be worthwhile to check that inside, whether we can have our brilliance. And Dr. Jacalyn, I know that I complimented you just before the show on your lovely top. And I know that you always bring the sparkle that's inside, outside, on this platform.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, for many of our viewers who don't know this, I'm pretty much a loner. I pretty much spend all of my time alone. And I'm not upset about it. I feel like I have found a level of peace that I didn't know existed. And I think for our topic today about when a role doesn't fit you, another way to look at it is, are you constantly surrounded by drama? Are you in the middle of the situation? It's drama, drama, drama. Most of your life seems to be about chaos, or maybe you're starting the chaos. Maybe it's about gossip and talking about other people. I saw this again today at the gym. There's an area where they have places to sit, and it's the same people. And you walk by and they're always talking about people. Did you see her? Did you see him? And I just smile to myself and I think, what if you had something productive to do with your time? You know, maybe they feel lost, that they don't know what their role is, except their role is to talk about other people. And so again, I think that goes into making a choice. When we're children, when I wrote that letter and I was in college, I wasn't 21. You know, maybe my parents could have helped me in some way and said, you know, you have everything that you need, instead of you could be thinner. I was always told you could be thinner. But for young people, they pretty much are having their lives shaped by whomever it is that's raising them and the people that they surround their lives with. But as we get older, we can make a choice and we can say, I choose not to be in this role anymore. It doesn't serve me. And maybe you can't even put it into words, but your body is telling you. You can't sleep. You're a nervous wreck. You're constantly worrying. And when you think about Mariska, being in a very peaceful place, if you were to think about being on a beach maybe, and you're the only one there and the waves are coming in and the sunset's coming down, and you're just grateful for the air in your lungs and for the opportunity, as opposed to everything is going on. It's like a tornado that's going on in your life. They're two very different feelings.
They are two very different feelings. And I mean, all blessings to the people that loves the tornadoes in their life. We need you too. But be very conscious about what it is that you are choosing, I think, is also important, right? Understanding that if I'm in a tornado, but I'm not a tornado person, I need to choose to step out of that. And if I'm not in a tornado and I need some more tornado-ness around me, then step into that. But be very conscious of what it is that you are choosing and think about that energy first. I've spoken to somebody the other day and they were busy thinking about the product that they want to launch and going through the whole, well, I don't know about this and I don't know about that. And one of the things that I mentioned to them, because I do see this as a pattern in general for people, is we get too into the details before we have actually stepped back for long enough to figure out where the hell we're going and how we want to feel while we're going there. It's not only about the thing, right? The direction, this is what I want to achieve. It's also about how do you want to feel while you're on this journey? It's not going to materialize in 10 seconds. I mean, Dr. Jacalyn, how long did it take you to build this platform? A couple of years?
Well, I started with Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn in 2019 and then USA Global TV and Radio in 2021. So we're on our 5th year and you've been here since the beginning. So you've seen the evolution.
Yeah. So if you felt with this platform the way that you felt in corporate, would you have continued?
Yes, I would have continued because I love what I do. I'm so passionate about what I do. You could ask me every Monday after a weekend, what did you do? And I'd be like, I worked. That's what I do every single day. That's what I'll be doing after this show is over. And some people can't comprehend that. But when you really love what you're doing, you're happy doing it. You can't wait to do it. How about you?
Well, same for me, for where I am right now, right? The thing is, if I stayed where I was, I would not have the energetic expression and feeling of what I have right now. At some point, I would be numbing, ignoring, doing all these other things that's not helpful, and just be turning into another gray blob, unfortunately, which would be very sad for me and everybody else. It's not a good place to be.
No, I don't want you to be a gray blob. I've never seen you as a gray blob. So, but Mariska, one thing we haven't told people is you currently are in Australia, formerly in New Zealand, formerly in Cape Town, and you do a lot of work to help people who are leaders and in business. Can you tell our audience what it is exactly that you do?
So I work with people in transitions. If you are in a place where you think, well, I've done this thing, I've had this career, it was really epic, but my role no longer fits me. Something feels off. It is worth a conversation. And working through what it might look like, feel like, what needs to change, how does it need to be different, and then stepping into that. We don't only explore the brilliance of the dream. As Dr. Jacalyn said, it is scary, right? That brilliance of the dream can be extremely scary. So it's helpful for us to have somebody with us to walk that path with us, to work out what would work for us, instead of listening to all those external voices. And that is what I help with. So whether you are in business or a leader in your own space with your team in a specific area, and it feels off, do contact me, and then we can start our conversation and see where it leads and bring some of your brilliance back into life. Because yes, we do not want more gray blobs. I think we have quite enough of them. Now, if you are interested in getting hold of me, you can do so via my website, which is journey2discover.com. Or alternatively, you can also email me. My email is Mariska, Mariska, @journey, JOURNEY, 2, discover, DISCOVER.com. Or you can also find me on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, it's nice and easy. You can connect and just send me a direct message and we can start our conversation. Easy. I am easy to get hold of.
You are easy to get a hold of. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for hosting this show today. I really enjoyed it. And for those who are E360 fans, you can watch it literally in about 15 minutes on E360 TV network. And you can also watch it on Amazon Fire. But if you are watching on YouTube, please, you're already there. Just help us out and go ahead and subscribe to our channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Thank you very much. Well, Mariska, I want to close out today with a message. We are actively recruiting TV shows, especially people who speak foreign languages. So if you speak a language other than English and you think you have what it takes to host a TV show, please do reach out. Take a look at this clip with the information, and Mariska and I will be back next week. Thank you. People are searching for experts every day. Are they finding you, or are they finding someone else? Every day, professionals are building authority through media. We've already built the platform. USA Global TV and Radio. Over 14,000 shows streamed to over 60 countries. This isn't about becoming famous. It's about leverage, visibility, credibility, opportunity. One interview, one conversation, one show, repurposed into content, connection, and business growth. Most people assume hosting a TV show requires a studio, a production team, and a massive budget. Our television packages begin at $1,500 US per month. Professional production, global distribution, replay visibility, built for voices with something to say. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and if this resonates with you, we should talk. USA Global TV and Radio, all rights reserved. Contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.